Okay, ladies and gents, welcome to the live stream today. And we've quite honestly got far too much to cover in the time that I have to stream today. So we're just going to focus on some of the big stories. So the first main story then is what has just happened with the US and the deployment, which is basically for Israel against Iran and the region. We'll go into that and we'll look at some of the articles in a moment around that. And then we also have what we've been talking about over the last couple of days with the UK protests / riots, because there are the media is framing it all as far right riots, but actually a lot of it is protests, and then there's a small portion that are rioting. We covered this in detail on yesterday's video, and this has really escalated now. It's gone from what was 1 to then 3 areas to then 6 areas to 15 areas. It's now 35 areas as of today, cities or towns. So it's really spreading. We'll get into some of that. I can't really cover a lot of it in terms of showing the footage because I got a warning last night. Because the thing is, when you have a large channel, there's only certain things that you can talk about and show. So if you want to see the live footage of some of the stuff on the ground, then you can see that on some of the smaller channels. But if I show it, my channel will basically get taken down or deleted. This is the world I live in now. So you can see some of that. But we'll go through some of the stories in a second here. So let's begin with, in fact, before I forget, I just released Module 9 today as well. So for those of you taking the course, just so you know, Module 9 was released today. This is the big one you've been waiting for, the blueprint. And then next Saturday, I'm going to do 2 modules in one. So you'll get the full blueprint. So that's steps 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you'll see all of that in your course platform now. So let's look at the articles then. US to send jets and warships as Iran threatens Israel. Now remember, it's always the chicken and the egg with all of these stories. So if you read them, if you don't know what happened previously, you'll read the article and say, what? Iran's threatening to bomb Israel and attack Israel. And you would read the article and say, wow, I can't believe they've just decided for no reason unprovoked to bomb Israel. Again, it's the chicken and the egg. And you can go right the way back. You could say, well, why is Iran doing this? Is it unprovoked? Well, no, it's not unprovoked. Israel did some drone strikes, although now they're not sure, they might have been planted. But then you'll say, well, why did Israel do that? Why? Well, they were after Hezbollah and some of the other leaders. Why? Because they've been firing rockets. Well, why have they been firing rockets? Well, because Israel did this to them. Well, why did Israel do that? Oh, well, the attacks in October. Well, why did they? It just goes on and on and on and on forever. That's why I don't take sides in these things. I just try and report on it as neutrally as I possibly can. Otherwise, you go on forever and you end up in an argument which goes like what I just showed you there. So now the US is sending warships and fighter jets to the Middle East to help defend Israel from attacks by Iran and its proxies. Tensions remain high in the region over the assassination of Hamas leader and who else? Oh yeah, the key commander of the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. Missile defense forces were placed on a state of increased readiness to deploy, saying that the US's commitment to defend Israel was ironclad. In other words, no matter what happens, the US will be going to war in the region. Iran's leader has vowed harsh punishment against Israel for the assassination. Haniyeh, I don't know how you pronounce his name, 62, was widely considered Hamas's overall leader and played a key role in negotiations aimed at reaching a ceasefire, which actually almost was signed off. China brokered the ceasefire, so it was pretty much done. And then he was, anyway, you know what happened. A Pentagon statement said the new deployment would improve US force protection, increase support for the defense of Israel, and ensure the US is prepared to respond to various contingencies. The deployments would include additional ballistic missiles, cruisers and destroyers. In fact, we get into a bit more detail. What are they sending them? Another additional squadron of Air Force F-22 fighter jets, as well as an unspecified number of additional Navy cruisers and destroyers capable of intercepting ballistic missiles, and, if needed, more land-based ballistic missile defense systems. In addition to some 80 land-based combat aircraft, the Pentagon has already deployed more than a dozen warships in the region. Were you aware of that? There's more than a dozen warships already there. The aircraft carrier Theodore Roosevelt, equipped with about 40 Super Hornets and F-35 attack planes, is now steaming near the Arabian Gulf, while the USS Wasp amphibious group, with 30 airplanes and helicopters, as well as 4,500 Marines and sailors, is operating in the Med. Now, this was also quite interesting. Let's go to the top here. This was out of the FT, and they really go into detail on how an all-out war between Israel and his adversaries might play out. This is quite an interest. It's a really long read. I'd recommend reading it because it is very long, but here's just a couple of points. The last time Israel went to war with Hezbollah in 2006, they threatened to turn Lebanon's clock back 20 years and drive the militant movement from the border. When the conflict ended a month later, Hezbollah had been battered and bruised, but its fighters remained in place. A full-blown conflict would pit the Middle East's most sophisticated military, they're talking about Israel, bolstered by advanced Western hardware and weaponry, against arguably the world's most heavily armed non-state actor. So this is Hezbollah of Lebanon. They said that all of this has also evolved their capabilities in the last 18 years. They show Israel's military hardware here, 19.2 billion, 169,500 personnel. But this is one of the key points here. It's the F-35, the most advanced fighter jet, or one of the most advanced fighter jets in the world. The Apaches, the artillery, the armored vehicles, the warships, etc. But Hezbollah, which analysts estimate has 20 to 40,000 fighters, that's not what they say, by the way. This is what analysts say, but Hezbollah claims they have 100,000 fighters. So it's a very broad estimate here. They possess a lot of sophisticated missiles and drones, which was provided by Iran, the militant group that Israel's been battling in Gaza for 10 months. So this was similar with Hamas. The US-based think tank estimates Hezbollah has between 120,000 and 200,000 projectiles, including precision-guided missiles and armed drones, as well as anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles. So this will be good. This will be interesting, I meant to say. This will be very interesting to see what happens with these fighter jets, etc. Hezbollah is also now able to strike across Israel and accurately calibrate strategic targets, meaning that no town or city would be safe. So it's got examples here as well. It's also put surveillance drones deep into Israel, which penetrated the country's sophisticated air defenses to capture footage of their military sites. So we have this Lebanese analyst who said the group has deployed about 5,000 missiles, although this is similar to what we're hearing about Russia. It said that they're keeping their most advanced stuff back for later. He estimated the group had used just 10% of its military, logistical and personnel capacity. And then it shows the range of what they again, this is Western analysts showing the range of their equipment. Israel's warned that if all-out war erupted, its military actions would go harder and deeper than they did in 2006, with devastating consequences for Lebanon. Israel is the world's biggest recipient of US foreign aid, which comes mostly in the form of military assistance. This means it has access to the most advanced weaponry in the world, including F-35 fighter jets. Washington has provided at least $12.5 billion in military aid since October 7th attack. Israel is also the only Middle East state with nuclear weapons, although it doesn't announce that. So we could go on and on and on with all of this, But I just wanted to share something else that I thought was really interesting. So you remember how the Trump shooter was in this BlackRock commercial? Yeah, you remember and they had to pull the commercial and all that. Well, we've just found out today that this guy, which doesn't want to play, no, what they're deliberately doing that. The attacker from last week, he also was in a commercial. He was in this Doctor Who themed Children in Need commercial. I mean, is that not the weirdest coincidence ever? I just thought that was absolutely baffling. I thought I'd bring that to your attention. And then we have to mention now, so 35 protests now. I thought it was interesting that the Independent called them protests, even though they say it's all far-right violence, which it's not. A lot of it is protests, and then there's violence within the protests. So either way, they're saying there's going to be 35 protests now. And this is really, I've been following a lot of it, and it's really quite interesting to actually follow all of this as to what is happening. It's developing at such a fast rate. It's insane how fast. There was another one last night, Sunderland, which was pretty intense last night. They even burned down the police station, although someone's now saying it wasn't. It was the Citizens Advice premises, not the police station. But the media saying it's the police station.
Overturned and set alight. About 400 or 500 protesters here in the centre of Sunderland. We've got a police helicopter overhead. You can probably see the riot squads just getting disperse them. But it's a strange
look at this. They're charging with horses
the sort of
now.
hard right lines, and then you've got families all wearing England tops cheering them along. I've seen babies in pushchairs.
Do you know what? Another thing, what they're calling now people that are on the protest with England flags and stuff, they're now calling them, I knew they'd come up with a name for people like this. They're calling them far-right antagonists. So that's the name. If you go on any protest, even if you're peacefully marching, which, by the way, they're saying the protests are not legal. They're calling them unauthorized, non-legal. They're not calling them illegal. They're calling them non-authorized, non-legal protests. And they are saying that the people on the protests are far-right antagonists. And they say it could still be a criminal offence if you egg on or you're seen to be cheering any violence. Again, you can go through all of this. It goes on and on and on and on forever. It really has broken out everywhere around the UK. It's even gone to, where else was it? Belfast. So it's even gone over to Belfast now. So it's really, really spreading everywhere. I won't go too much more on today's video because I just wanted to keep it nice and short today and just to update you on the news of the week. It is the weekend. We don't want to go too intense on the weekend. But apart from that, I'll see you on Monday and I'll bring you up to speed on everything then. So thanks so much for being a subscriber here. Thanks for being with me this week. I know it's been an absolute crazy week. It really has. Apart from that, take care. God bless. Stay safe and I will see you on Monday.